There was something different about this girl. Divinity in motion. She stopped the room.
Michael Joseph Jackson was an American singer, songwriter, producer, and dancer who was born in the city of Gary, Indiana. Also known as the King of Pop, he contributed for more than 4 decades to revolutionizing the world of music, fashion, dance, and advertising through his songs, music videos, and live performances, making him one of the most important cultural figures of the 20th century. I take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe and leave your like to continue making videos about more stories. You can also find the albums, lyrics, and music videos of these and other songs on our website storiesbehindsongs.com. Being the 8th child of the Jackson family, he began his artistic career within the family group the Jackson 5, who, with the support of the Motown record label, managed to integrate the music of the African American community into popular music. However, it was thanks to Michael Jackson's solo career and the enormous success of his albums Thriller, Bad, and Dangerous that racial barriers would eventually be broken down on stations and networks like MTV, which were popularly directed at a white audience. People who knew Michael know that he was a talented, perfectionist, proud, and very ambitious person when setting goals in his musical career. He never settled for the success he already had and always sought to innovate in his music videos, and the development of such amazing dance moves that he would strongly influence bands and singers of later generations. But behind the scenes, he was an introverted, sensitive person with an innocence that made him the target of defamation, being questioned for his eccentric tastes, controversial childhood, constant changes in his appearance, and especially the sexual abuse allegations he faced when he was at the peak of his fame. Despite being thoroughly investigated by the FBI for 10 years and no incriminating evidence being found, these allegations overshadowed his enormous philanthropic, altruistic, and humanitarian work, which at that time raised public awareness about various global and humanitarian issues. These are stories behind Michael Jackson's songs. We Are the World. The song was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie in 1985 as a contribution to a fundraising campaign for humanitarian purposes. During the 80s, the terrible images of famine in various parts of Africa moved musician and social activist Harry Belafonte, who took advantage of the English trend of charity concerts to gather the most popular singers in the United States. The goal was to raise funds to combat hunger in Ethiopia, as 2 years earlier, it had claimed the lives of more than 1 million people. Quincy Jones, the producer of Michael Jackson's legendary album Thriller, was in charge of selecting and inviting as many performers as possible, with the warning that once they arrived at the studio, they should leave their egos at the door. The call was attended by 45 musicians, including Ray Charles, Tina Turner, Stevie Wonder, Bob Dylan, Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen, etc. The excitement of bringing together the leading musical talents of the time in one night was so great that actress Jane Fonda documented the recording process, contributing years later to the dissemination and promotion of the message behind the historic musical event. Other artists like Prince were invited but declined, as did actor Eddie Murphy, who initially refused because he was recording a single. However, later Murphy commented that after learning about the importance of the event, he felt like a fool. The lyrics of the song were written at the Jackson family home in Encino, California, and for a week Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson worked on the lyrics and melodies, aiming to create a memorable and easy-to-sing anthem. It is said that Michael was so excited about the song that after Richie's first 2 melodies, he couldn't wait until the next day, and without Richie knowing, Michael added drums, piano, strings, and the chorus lyrics that same day, finishing the demo that night. The reason was that he loved working quickly. The rest of the meetings were used to complete the song, but they faced a creative block that prevented them from contributing anything more. and only when there were 2 hours left before the first recording session did they manage to finish the lyrics. The song was recorded on January 28, 1985, and around 10:30 p.m., some performers were delaying the recording. Steve Wonder wanted to change a line of the original lyrics to one in Swahili. Bob Dylan's singing style did not fit with the rest. During Cyndi Lauper's takes, an unknown noise was filtering in until it was discovered that it was her jewelry. As the recording progressed, incidents continued to occur, in addition to the general exhaustion of recording all night. And it was only with the motivation and requests of the organizers that they finished recording at 8 a.m. Finally, the song was released on March 7th of the same year and quickly topped the charts worldwide, becoming the best-selling American pop single in history. Thanks to its enormous success, it became the anthem of future charity events like Live Aid and Live 8. Man in the Mirror. It is the 7th song from the 1987 album Bad and was later released as a single in 1988 to continue boosting album sales. It was originally written by Michael Jackson's backup singer and songwriter, Sita Garrett, who along with lyricist Len Ballard, had been composing the song for 2 years until producer Quincy Jones asked them to present new songs for Michael Jackson's upcoming album. Sita Garrett recalls Quincy Jones saying it was one of the best songs he had ever heard, but it was Michael who was so impressed by the beautiful message of the song that he later added a higher central octave. By changing part of the lyrics, he added gospel-style choirs to inject more strength and energy, ending with a key change to A-flat major to take the final part of the song to the highest level of feeling. The song Man in the Mirror is a call for reflection and personal change as a means to improve the world. Through its lyrics, Jackson expresses the importance of recognizing and acting on social issues, but starting with oneself. The phrase, "I'm starting with the man in the mirror," emphasizes the idea that change begins internally. Additionally, the song suggests that ignoring others' problems is a form of selfishness, and that empathy and action are necessary for social transformation. The song has become an inspiring anthem that invites people to improve and contribute positively to society. Jackson's influence on pop culture and his commitment to various humanitarian causes gave even more weight to the song's lyrics. The music video is one of the few where Michael does not appear, as he preferred to show powerful images contrasted by historical and tragic events of famous people from around the world. It also highlights images of peaceful protests and poverty as a way to reflect along with the melody. The last time this song was performed was on October 21, 2001, at the United We Stand concert held in Washington, D.C. as a tribute to the victims of the September 11th attacks. Finally, in 2009, it took on a new meaning after Michael Jackson's death, as at the end of his memorial, during the final moment when the coffin was carried out, the instrumental part of this song was used as background music while a microphone was illuminated as a symbol of the void left after the singer's passing. I Just Can't Stop Loving You. This soft rock ballad was released as a single and is the 8th song on the 7th studio album, Bad, from 1987. The song is a duet between Michael Jackson and backing vocalist Sita Garrett. Initially, producer Barry Gibb invited several famous singers like Barbra Streisand and Whitney Houston. However, Barbara declined the invitation, feeling that the song wouldn't be believable since she was 16 years older than Michael. Similarly, Whitney Houston's record label rejected the invitation, fearing that a single by Michael Jackson could overshadow the release of Whitney's next album. Siedah Garrett was dedicated to writing and receiving demos to collaborate on songs with various artists. She longed to work with Michael and received an offer to participate in the backing vocals for the song Man in the Mirror. However, she was surprised when she was informed the day after the recording that, in addition to the backing vocals, she would be singing a duet with Michael Jackson on this song. At that time, Michael was interested in singing in other languages and even sought to make an album with songs in Spanish. With the help of Quincy Jones, he managed to collaborate with Panamanian singer-songwriter Ruben Blades, who is globally recognized for the song Pedro Navaja. Ruben was responsible for the translation and pronunciation of the song, which in Spanish would be called Te Do Mi Amor Eres Tu. Ruben Blades commented that he worked with Michael on this song for 3 days and found him to be a very good student, extremely professional despite his eccentricities and personal problems. The song turned out so well in Spanish that when it was played for the company, they couldn't believe it was Michael singing.
Como la brisa, tu voz me acaricia y pregunto por ti.
In the original version of the Bad album, the song begins with a narrative part with synthesizers in the background and Michael whispering a romantic phrase, which according to him, was recorded while he was lying in bed. This introduction caused controversy among critics, but it was included in the 7-inch single, in future releases of the Bad album, and in most compilation albums, as well as an alternative version released in Walmart stores during 2012. Black or white? It is the 8th song from the 1991 album Dangerous. It is considered the best-selling rock song of the 1990s. It is a mix of hard rock with dance and rap, but it is categorized as a danceable pop rock song similar to Beat It. The song was written and recorded along with 80 other songs over 18 months, as Michael was looking for a completely different sound from what he had achieved with Quincy Jones. Michael hired producer Bill Bottrell, with whom he had previously worked and from whom he expected the rock touch for his new album. This collaboration helped make the songs on the Dangerous album more aggressive and with a heavy sound, while using state-of-the-art technology to mix and replace instruments, leading critics to describe the album's sound as rough and urban. When this song was composed, Michael started with the humming of the main riff, then Bottrell played the melody on an electric guitar connected to an emulator, and later took Michael's vocal rhythm and processed it in MIDI format using a computer program. In the end, they already had the basic instruments, but when Michael continued with other projects, the song stalled for several months until he resumed it, hoping to fill 2 large central gaps it had. At that time, hard rock was gaining a lot of popularity in the United States, and Michael wanted to include a heavy metal solo. Bottrell, on his part, wanted to fill the second gap with a rap session and looked for a candidate among several important rappers, but in the end, it was he himself whom Michael chose to write and sing that fragment. The music video was directed by John Landis, who had previously directed the iconic Thriller video. It begins with a scene of a boy played by Macaulay Culkin, who is listening to a hard rock song at full volume. His father goes up to his room to scold him and turn off the music. Shortly after, the boy comes down from his room with an electric guitar and plays so loudly that he manages to launch his father, along with the chair, into space. He finally lands in Africa, starting the song and Michael Jackson's choreography with dancers from different cultures, changing scenery in different countries. At the end of the video, there is a mid-body shot of a person who, while dancing, transforms into others, highlighting the features of different ethnicities and nationalities, but coordinated by the same choreography. This visual effect, known as morphing, was very expensive and advanced for the time, so a film company that had only used it in high-budget movies like Terminator 2 was hired. The extended version of the video generated a lot of controversy, as at the end of the song, a Black Panther can be seen leaving the recording studio and transforming into Michael Jackson, who is alone on an urban street and begins to do a nearly 4-minute dance solo, in which he starts breaking bottles, windows, and car glass, then climbs on it and performs more suggestive moves, grabbing his crotch and simulating zipping up his pants. Jackson received harsh criticism from various media, claiming that he promoted vandalism as a form of fun. Jackson publicly apologized, explaining that it was simply an interpretation of a panther's wild instincts. However, years later, Michael ordered the scenes to be altered with CGI technology, asking to add graffiti with racist and anti-Semitic messages on the glass and walls of the set as a way to justify the scenes of destruction. During MTV's 10th anniversary in 1991, there was an appearance by guitarist Slash in the performance of Black or White, where at the end of the song, Slash throws his guitar against the graffiti-covered car on the set while it explodes with fireworks. Thriller. The song is part of his sixth studio album of the same name, released in 1982. It was written with the help of supporting composer Rod Temperton and produced by Quincy Jones. The theme, originally conceived by Temperton as Starlight, alluded to futuristic themes like Star Wars. Michael Jackson didn't like the concept and asked him to change all the lyrics, besides considering it as the main song of the album that would bear the same name. Temperton, annoyed, had to think of more than 200 different titles, and, seeking to rewrite the lyrics, he was inspired by Michael's fondness for horror movies. The title he finally chose was Midnight Man, but the next morning, when he was about to deliver the demo, he came across a word that he couldn't get out of his mind: Thriller. The song begins with a bass and a synthesizer that imprint a powerful and very catchy funk sound, accompanied by sound effects like a door opening, thunder, footsteps, and a wolf's howl that emphasize the spooky atmosphere. Shortly before the song ends, the deep and mysterious voice of Vincent Price is heard, who merges a dark narration with the musical theme and closes with his iconic chilling laugh. At first, Michael considered inviting Alice Cooper for the narration in the song. However, the producer Quincy Jones' wife met Price, who worked with Cooper, and seeing his track record in horror movies, invited him to participate. Rod Temperton wrote the text for Vincent Price while he was in a taxi on his way to the studios for the recording, and once they started, Price finished his part in just 2 takes. It is said that he was given 2 options for payment for his services. The first would be a monetary remuneration of $20,000 at that moment, and the second a total percentage of the album's sales each year. Price chose the first option, but seeing the enormous success of the album and the abysmal sales figures in the following months, he regretted not asking for more money for that collaboration. Michael, seeing that the album was dropping from the top spots on the charts, planned to release the song Thriller as a single and music video, which would be directed by John Landis, one of his favorite horror film directors. At first, he faced criticism from Epic Records executives who didn't believe a song about monsters would be successful, but in the end, they authorized the project. Michael was afraid that the image of dancing zombies would become funny, so his main concern was to prepare dance steps that wouldn't allow people to laugh at them. He met with dancer and choreographer Michael Peters, with whom he worked on the choreography for Beat It, to solve that problem. During the making of the video, Michael demanded more and more production until it became so expensive that the record company refused to continue funding the project. Michael decided to produce a documentary about the process of creating the music video to get funding by selling it to television networks, managing to convince MTV to pay $250,000 for the exclusive rights to broadcast the documentary, as well as other entertainment companies. The release of the music video doubled the sales of the album, which was already very successful on its own, making it the best-selling album of all time and forever changing the concept of the music video by using massive choreographies and turning them into a serious art form. The video not only broke the racial barriers of entertainment at that time, but also helped save the record sales industry, which was beginning to lose ground to new technologies like television and video games, and popularized the making of format for major productions. Beat It. It is the third song on the 1982 album Thriller. After his fifth studio album called Off the Wall, Michael Jackson had caused a sensation in a segment of the population, standing out for his music, solo dances, and massive choreographies. Quincy Jones encouraged Jackson to include a rock song on the album. Jackson agreed, but on the condition that the song would be something he himself would buy if he went to a record store, and he wanted it to be enjoyable for everyone. Quincy contacted Eddie Van Halen by telephone to invite him to collaborate, and although at first Eddie thought it was a joke and hung up 3 times, he eventually agreed to participate on the condition that he would not appear in the credits and would not receive any payment, as he was contractually prohibited from doing solo projects. However, taking advantage of the fact that his bandmates were on vacation, he showed up to record. It is said that Van Halen changed the tone of the song and modified it to fit his guitar. He finished his collaboration in just 2 takes, and a few seconds before starting the solo, several knocks on wood can be heard. Some say it was a technician knocking on the door of the room to see if it was occupied. Others say it was Van Halen knocking on his own guitar before starting the solo. And others claim it was Michael knocking on the drum box, as his name appears in the credits of this song as drum case beater in the end. Everyone agreed to leave the sound in the song, and Van Halen could only be rewarded with 2 six-packs of beer after recording one of the most legendary guitar solos of the 80s. The music video was directed by film director Bob Giraldi, and the choreography was done with the help of dancer Michael Peters. The dance steps in Billie Jean had first revealed Michael Jackson's talent for dancing, but it was Beat It that established him as an international pop icon. The video begins with members of 2 gangs spreading the word to meet and fight each other. Jackson, dressed in a red leather jacket, interrupts the fight between the rival leaders and, as a warning, seeks to prevent violence from starting at all costs, especially when it seems that honor is at stake, thus managing to get all the gang members to become part of the iconic choreography. Michael's brother, Jermaine Jackson, claims that the conceptual idea of Beat It was inspired by the gangs of Indiana, where the Jackson family witnessed 3 fights between rival groups. It is also said that in the line "Don't be a macho man," Michael expresses his rejection of the justification many have for committing abuses to demonstrate strength, possibly inspired by the abuses Michael suffered during his childhood at the hands of his own father, Joseph Walter Jackson. The music video was filmed in the Skid Row neighborhood of Los Angeles, where the rivalry between 2 street gangs, the Crips and the Bloods, was very popular. Jackson recruited several members of these groups to give them employment as dancers with the aim of promoting peace between them. As a curious fact, At the 4:30-minute mark of the music video, the leader of the band in white attire does not perform the dance step with the same force as Michael, so Michael ends up catching up to him and steps on him for a second. Similarly, in the music video, you can see a young 17-year-old Tracy Guns, who had just founded the band LA Guns and who would later be part of the early days of the band Guns N' Roses. Smooth Criminal. It is the 10th song from the 7th studio album called Bad from 1987. The song was rewritten from a demo called Al Capone, which was not released until the 25th anniversary reissue of the Bad album, along with other songs and extra material on a second disc. The song and the music video are inspired by the 1950s film genre film noir, also known as black film genre, characterized by stories about gangsters and urban crimes. The lyrics talk about a woman named Annie, who has been attacked in her apartment by a stealthy assailant. She tries to escape but is caught and severely injured. For the rest of the song, you can only hear people asking if she is okay. According to filmmaker Spike Lee, director of the 2012 documentary Bad 25, the chorus "Annie, are you okay?" repeated throughout the song, is inspired by the cardiopulmonary resuscitation mannequin known as Resusci-Anne. Michael practiced CPR for a while, and the protocol states that during interventions, you should ask the patient if they are okay as a way to check if they are conscious to stop the resuscitation. Michael thought it was a chorus that melodically integrated well into his composition, and critics generally considered that the song really captured Michael Jackson's sense of creative freedom after Thriller. Choreographer Vincent Patterson, upon hearing the demo, had a clear idea of filming inside a gangster club, and the white suit and fedora hat that Michael wears were inspired by the musical romantic comedy The Bandwagon. Similarly, Jackson proposed a move with his dancers where they perform a 45-degree forward lean that looks physically impossible. In the video, the illusion was created using cables and harnesses, but Jackson's team created and patented shoes designed to hook onto pegs on the stage floor. These allow the dancer's lean to go beyond the center of gravity as long as the back remains firm and the feet are planted on the ground. This live movement requires a lot of athletic strength in the legs. Originally, Quincy Jones did not like the song, but Michael had such a particular fondness for it that after creating the short film, he took his music to new horizons, starting with the release of an experimental film called Moonwalker in 1988. It also entered the video game market with a couple of titles developed by Sega for their consoles and arcades. The Japanese toy company Bandai released an action figure of Jackson in his Smooth Criminal outfit, and the film was even adapted into a 3D comic format by Blackthorn Publishing, which paid a very high sum for the rights. However, the comic's failure in sales the following year severely impacted the publisher's finances, eventually leading it to declare bankruptcy.
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
Billie Jean.
She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene.
It is the 6th song from the 6th studio album, Thriller, released in 1982. The song was written by Michael Jackson in just 5 minutes, and he stated that while writing it, he could feel it would become a hit. Producer Quincy Jones disagreed with the 29-second intro duration, but when he wanted to remove it, Jackson asked him to leave it as it made him want to dance. The lyrics describe a woman who claims to have a child by the narrator, who denies it all the time and only remembers the warnings from people and his own mother about being careful and not playing with young girls' hearts. Jackson has stated that the lyrics are inspired by fans known at the time as groupies, who followed his brothers while they were in the Jackson 5 band. Michael was still a child and did not understand why these fans claimed to have children related to one of his brothers. Session keyboardist Greg Fillinganes assured that after recording the song, he discovered it was great on every level: rhythm, sound, melody, lyrics, and that it could affect physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. Currently, several critics consider it one of the best songs ever made. Quincy Jones recalls working with Donna Summer on the song State of Independence, originally composed by John and Vangelis. On that occasion, Michael participated in the chorus, and it is believed that he took the bass and keyboard notes from there to later adapt them to a funkier version. On May 15, 1983, Motown Records broadcast a television special for its 25th anniversary, inviting the main artists who were part of its label. After the Jackson 5 finished their performance, it was agreed that Michael would have a space to promote his latest album called Thriller. Jackson wore black pants, leather moccasin-type shoes, a black sequin jacket, and a white glove with rhinestones. Billie Jean starts playing, and Jackson puts on his fedora hat, surprising the audience with his distinctive dance steps and poses full of strength and style. Finally, during the instrumental interlude of the song, he performs a move that creates a visual effect where he appears to walk forward, but his body goes backward, ending with a spin and finally lifting his weight onto the tips of his shoes. The live performance of this song revealed Michael Jackson's talent as a pop icon along with his historic backward slide. The move was already used by young people in the black community under the name backslide, but after Michael's performance, it was dubbed by the media as the moonwalk, marking it as a moment that transcended in a way no live musical performance had ever achieved. The music video was directed by filmmaker and director Steve Barron, who would also be recognized for other iconic videos by bands like Toto, Aha, ZZ Top, Def Leppard, among others. The video shows a paparazzi following Michael, who walks down the sidewalk, lighting up the tiles he touches with his dance steps. Steve Knopper, one of Jackson's biographers, has speculated whether the costume and choreography of this song are deeply inspired by the dance routine of American actor and choreographer Bob Fosse. In the 1974 musical film The Little Prince, Fosse portrays the character of the snake, and during the performance of the song A Snake in the Grass, he performs a choreography where many of Jackson's moves can be seen, including hip movements, leg positions, shoulders, and hands. Jackson has openly acknowledged being a big fan of Bob Fosse's work to the point of having a home collection of his choreographies for film and television. An accident associated with this song occurred in 1984 when the Pepsi Company agreed to pay Michael Jackson the extravagant amount of $5 million to record some commercials for their new campaign, Choice of the New Generation. Michael rewrote the lyrics of Billie Jean, and during the filming of the second commercial, on the sixth take, he was a few steps closer to the fireworks, which were detonated prematurely, causing some sparks to reach the singer, and the hairspray he used allowed the fire to grow quickly on his head. Michael continued his routine until he was reached by staff and his brothers to try to extinguish the fire that had already spread to his entire hair and part of his face. Michael was hospitalized for second and third degree burns, had to be given strong painkillers, and underwent reconstructive surgery on different parts of his head. Many of the biographers specializing in Michael agree that it was this accident that made the singer addicted to painkillers, as the pain from the sequelae never disappeared. The commercial relationship between Jackson and Pepsi was not affected by the accident, as the following year they signed a new contract that would cover 5 continents, this time for $10 million, maintaining the commercial relationship for more than 20 years until the sexual abuse allegations against Jackson forced the soda company to coldly disassociate from him. If you liked the video, share it with your friends and family so they can learn more about these topics. Remember, you can leave us comments about other singers or bands you would like to know the stories behind their songs. Until next time.